Oh, how are we, GameLeapers? The cheese back at it. I hope you're all relishing the 11.7 patch, and in today's video, I'm going to be giving you all the information and tips and tricks you need to beat the most hated and banned champions in the game. You see, the reason you guys hate them so much is because versing these champions makes you want to break your mouse, your desk, your TSM mug. The equipment around you is in danger. But if you stick around for the next 10 or so minutes, guys, I guarantee those nearby objects will be safe as houses. And if you have broken anything playing this game, please let me know in the comments. Was it a keyboard, a relationship? Fill the cheese in. Now, there have been a few requests of late, guys, for yours truly to make a video on this topic, and you know what? Seeing as I care about every single one of you, here it is. And that goes to show as well that if you do have any video suggestions, make sure to leave them in the comments, because you never know, tomorrow might be your topic. Now, to master any of the ones I mentioned, or to find out how the best players in the world play, not just these champions better than everyone else, but all the champions on the Rift, head on over to the GameLeap website. You are a few clicks away from getting exclusive access to our up-to-meta content that is released fresh and on the daily. So get signed up. Links as always in the description and comment section. Alright, let's get into it, guys, and starting us off, we have a champion detested across all Lelos because they do one of two things. They run it down and feed, or they 1v9 and smurf. Now this, of course, is Yasuo. And who wants to learn how to beat every single wind abuser they play against? Well, listen up. Now, to be able to counter and beat another champion in the game, guys, it is imperative we understand how that champion works. So Yasuo, in this case, thrives when he is mobile. And in the mid lane in particular, this is why skill shot based champions like Syndra and Lux really struggle against him. He can E through minions to gap close to you and E out in the blink of an eye. So naturally, Yasuo struggles against champions with point and click CC like Malzahar and Pantheon. But let's say you have picked Syndra or Orianna, or you just struggle against Yasuo no matter what champion you pick. Well, the key to winning this matchup, guys, is playing around Yasuo's shield. And this is the white bar underneath his HP bar. If you're throwing out abilities while Yasuo has his white bar showing, you are straight up trolling, because you're not actually damaging him, in the early game anyway. So whenever you're trading with a Yasuo, guys, the key is to proc that shield before fighting, and you have to do this with an auto attack. This means that when you use your abilities on him, you're actually hitting him where it hurts, and it will be hard for him to catch his breath. Hey, see what I did there? Now, another couple of tips to know about. Most players run forwards and backwards in the mid lane, and against Yasuo, this is very risky because it means he can land his Q on the reg. So what you need to start doing is moving to the left or to the right, so a bit of lateral movement here. Because in the laning phase, guys, Yasuo doesn't have enough attack speed for his Q to be on a 1.5 second cooldown. It's actually on close to a 4 second cooldown, and this is meaningful. If you can evade it, then you have a window to retaliate. But this doesn't happen if you're moving along one line. You've got to be like a queen on the chessboard, yeah? Able to move in all directions. And the last tip for pumping that next Yasuo player you see, guys, is to respect the wind. So when Yasuo has his tornado stacked, this is when he is at his deadliest. The damage is important, but the knockup is the real killer here, especially if he's level 6 or if his jungler is nearby. So if all other conditions are equal in the lane when Yasuo is threatening to tornado, back up a little, guys, and wait it out. And once he uses it, well, this is another window you have to dish out your own damage. He no longer has that knockup, and it will take him a while to restack it. So hopefully you are no longer afraid of this ponytailed samurai. Now, this next champion is the most feared champion in the game. Is that a fact? No, I'm just taking a guess based on how many of you react to Darius being in our top champion countdowns. And it is true. If you don't know what makes Darius tick, you're going to be in trouble. But that's the same for any champion. It's just that Darius is one of those who can punish your mistakes hella hard. But even Darius has his own weaknesses. The main one being his lack of mobility. He has no dash until he gets Stridebreaker, and it's very easy to kite him around the top lane. So the first tip in terms of picking a champion is to pick a range one like Quinn, for example. But geez, I'm playing a melee champion. Alright, relax. Well, Darius can really struggle against champions who can jump onto him or get close to him quickly. And why is this? Well, think of Darius's Q, guys. If you get hit by the blade, which is the outer part of his Q, yeah, you're going to have a bad time. But if you get hit by the handle, which is the inner part of his Q, there is nothing to fear because it does ridiculously less damage. So when he's charging this up, if you're playing Riven, Aurelia, Jax, Wukong, Tryndamere, use your gap closer and get close to him, and you will 100% win that trade. Now, if you're playing a champion who doesn't have a dash or a spin or any real mobility, there are two important details when you're against a Darius: the range of his E and your own cooldowns. You see, if you walk up to a Darius, guys, in range of his E, guess what? This allows him to land the outer part of his Q, and yeah, you're going to rage. So knowing the range of Darius's apprehend is extremely important, and this is how you should space in the lane. Just on the range of his E, so it's a lot harder for him to pull you in. Now, let's say you do get pulled in, and this is where most players die. Well, it's not the fact that Darius has caught you out. It's the fact that you don't have any cooldowns to counter it because you just use them. So if you're playing Cho'Gath, for example, if you use your Q and W before Darius pulls you, you are going to lose 100%. But if you save your Q and W, it's a different story. You can disengage very easily, and because Darius's E is on a 24-second cooldown at rank 1, you actually have the upper hand for the rest of that wave. So it's more about actually letting him pull you in so then you can reliably hit your own skills. Now, of course, there are certain intricacies and interactions you need to know for each champion, but I'm sure these tips will help you out regardless of the champ you pick. Now, being the former rank 1 Shaco player in the world, guys, I'm going to give you the ultimate counter to my naughty little demon jester. Invade him level 1, straight up. There is no champion in the game more useless at level 1 than a Shaco. Shaco. I mean, Katarina is up there and Kassadin, but without his boxes and without setup for his first clear, it actually puts him really far behind, especially if the enemy jungler is a fast clearer like Hecarim, Nidalee, Udyr, Kayn, someone like that. Now, I'll give you guys one more tip. When level 6 rolls around, Shaco's ultimate is used a lot to juke the opposition. Lots of players will attack the clone and not the real one. Well, do you want to know which is which every single time? Ping the Shaco during the fight. How easy is that? And what this does, guys, is when the Shaco uses his hallucinate, the real one is still going to have that target ping above his head. Barely anyone does this, and I don't know why, being a Shaco main, because it is the biggest post-6 cuck. So yeah, apply these so you no longer have Shaco nightmares. Now, another champion that might give you a nightmare resides in the bot lane, and this AD carry has been the most banned marksman in the history of League. It's Samira. Now, with the recent AD buff, Samira does do damage, so if you get caught out by the enemy support, you might be in trouble. But here's the thing, guys. Samira's cooldowns are longer than the time pro guards have spent advertising on our videos. So her W is 30 seconds, her E is 20 seconds, and let's not forget that she can no longer E through her own minions or teammates. So if you can get onto her when her blade well is down in particular, good things are going to happen. And remember, guys, that if Samira doesn't have these cooldowns, she can't stack her style as effectively, so pay close attention to this when level 6 comes around. Also, Samira isn't your longest range AD carry. She is one of the shortest. So you can hard bully her in lane if you're on Caitlyn or Ashe, for example. And if she does suddenly decide to jump on you, she can't escape. So if you play range and almost bait her into overextending, you can return fire and chunk her out of lane. Now, this next champion you can destroy in the laning phase, but very few people do. They let Katarina get to level 6 for free and her major items without any hassle. Well, it's time to change up the playstyle, guys, because Katarina's early game is her big weak point. So stand up in the minion wave and contest every minion. Don't just let her walk up and CS for free. Unless you get ganked early on, there is no reason why you shouldn't have a sizable CS lead after the first few waves. And then Katarina hits level 3. What do? Well, if she throws her bouncing blade at you, you run either towards her or to the side, because the dagger will land behind you. So if you run backwards, yeah, she can just shumpo to the dagger and you're going to lose that trade for sure. And if she starts off her combo with her shumpo, most if not every champion in the game, guys, has an ability that can disrupt or negate the effects of another champion all-inning them. So this might be a shield or a stun or a snare or a dash. If you hold on to this ability, like you might be an Akali with your E, or a Lux with your Q and W, or a Zoe with your sleepy trouble bubble, Cat can do nothing to you. And like Samira, after she's overcommitted, don't just run back, retaliate. Use your own damage to let Cat know where she stands in that early game. Now, I also want you guys to let us know where we stand with this video, so if you're enjoying it, guys, and learning a few things, smash that like button. And this next champion fares better than Katarina in the early game, and he's actually the most banned champion at the moment because players find him near impossible to deal with. So if you've got a Hecarim charging at you, what can you do? Well, admittedly, not much if you're pushed up in your lane, but if you come across one in the jungle and it's a 1v1, there is one key detail you have to look out for: Hecarim's W. You see, when this is on cooldown, guys, Hecarim is actually extremely killable because he has no sustain without it. So if you see him use this on a Scuttle Crab or Dragon, or when he ganks the lane, you have a 20-second window to engage and punish him for it. His first couple of levels are very weak as well, so if you can play an aggressive early game jungler like Graves or Nidalee or Lee Sin, pile the pressure on him. Now, another mid laner you can pile the pressure on is Zed, and yes, it's easier for the Shadow Assassin to hard carry with the Seeker's Arm Guard nerf and Serilda's Grudge buff, but playing Zed in high elo is a struggle. And why is that? Why is he so much harder for players to beat in low elo? Well, it's simple. Ignorance is fatal. So if you don't know when Zed is weak, guys, and when he is strong, you are going to find it tough to survive. Now, the first thing to know is that Zed's Q deals less damage to the target's hit after the first. So if it hits a minion and then you, it's going to tickle, and that's it. So standing around your minions is a great tactic, and you can do this when he throws his W and E at you as well. Another thing to know is that Zed's wave clear is trash early on, and if he is to clear minions as well as other champions like Orianna, Talon even, he has to use his W, which is on a 20-second cooldown at rank 1. So you can harass him under his tower or just pressure him so he has to give up CS. Now, like I said with Katarina, your champion of choice is going to have an ability that can stop Zed from comboing you when he hits level 6 in particular, whether that is a Xerath E or a Cassiopeia ultimate or an Anivia Q. It is essential you hold on to this ability until Zed gets impatient and uses his death mark, otherwise you are going to go splat. Now, who picks Malphite when they get auto-filled top lane? Or who hates it when the enemy team picks Malph? Well, if you can remember these tips, you are going to love it when that noob blocks in Malphite thinking they're getting free LP. Get rid of his shield with an auto attack. Just like Yasuo's shield we talked about, you don't want to be wasting your skills on nothing. Malphites can go very quickly in the early game, so constantly trading with them will force them to burn through Qs like no tomorrow, and they have to recall and waste TP to not fall behind. Now, if you jump onto a Malphite, guys, you have to be careful of his ground slam. Not for the damage, but for the attack speed reduction. So for auto attackers like Tryndamere, Jax, Aurelia, this is a massive counter. So if you can bait this out by running up and auto attacking Malph to proc his shield and bait him to use his E, you can then re-engage after your attack speed is refreshed, and it's showtime. Now, this last tip may sound simple, and it is, but even challenger players don't do it. Flash early, not late. So if you're getting ganked or if you're in a team fight and Malphite suddenly uses his ultimate, you use your flash. Way too many players get hit by the unstoppable force and flash afterwards when they are already dead. So keep your eye on the rock, guys, and get ready to press D or F when that force is coming towards you. Now, how can we have a video like this without Master Yi in it? Well, we can't. So to counter the Wuju Bladesman, guys, here's what you have to do. Interrupt his W. That's the first thing. Lots of players will use their stun, their knock-up, their big damaging ability when Yi is just chilling. Don't, because you won't do anything to him. So be patient and wait for him to meditate, then go again. Now, the second thing, guys, is to also show patience when Yi Qs, because he can dodge your abilities. And one of the keys to all this is maintaining space. Headbutting Yi is going to end one way, but if you can bait him to Q onto you, you can then respond with your own abilities and turn the fight around. So don't just throw out your skills, guys, willy-nilly. Wait for the Yi to overcommit. I think that's been a theme in this video, to be honest, and away you go. Now, before we get into the last champion, guys, most of you hate playing against. One last friendly reminder to check out the GameLeap website for guaranteed improvement on the Rift. Don't you want to find out what your max potential is? Don't you want to climb and better yourself? Well, our challenger courses, guides, and videos will do just that, so join thousands of users and get signed up. Links down below. Now, maybe you find Yasuo easy to play against, but his brother a lot harder. So to know how to beat Yone, guys, this is what you have to do. Pick Pantheon. That's the first tip. Next tip, like Yasuo, dodging Yone's Q is important and doable. So when Yone walks up to you, don't be predictable and stand still or move in a straight line. Give him a bit of a sidestep, and when that Q misses, throw out your own Q. Now, again, like Yasuo, Yone is very scary when he has his whirlwind at the ready, so 2 stacks of his Q. If you get hit by it, you take damage and get knocked up, and he can combine this with his E and his R, so you have to play passively when he poses this threat. But then when he uses his whirlwind, you have very little to worry about. And you can also go full guns blazing when Yone uses his W. This of course does damage, but it also gives him a shield, and shields in any trade are extremely valuable. So if and when Yone uses his W, he has nothing to protect his HP bar, and his W scales with attack speed, so in the early game, this is around a 15-second cooldown, so don't be scared after he uses it. So take all of these tips, guys, into your game against these notorious champions of the Rift, and you will slay it. Remember to subscribe and turn on all notifications before leaving, and until tomorrow's upload,